I am a huge horror movie fan. I grew up on the slasher movies of the 80s. And I think Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is a masterpiece. And I know you have won an Oscar and you have won every award imaginable, but maybe Dream Warriors isn't the most prestigious film in your filmography. I'm just sort of curious all these years later where that movie stands for you, because I think it is a horror masterpiece.
My boyfriend just watched it the other night for the first time.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I have been wanting to talk to you for years, so I truly appreciate your time. And this was my #1 series of the year last year. It is an absolute masterpiece. So seriously, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Jake, I gave you permission to record.
Yep, I'm recording.
Perfect, awesome.
Cool.
And then just normal timing cues, everything, and you can go ahead, buddy.
Got it. Thank you, CJ. Ms. Arquette, seriously, it's such an honor. When the series begins, your character knows a lot more than the audience. She knows a lot more than most of the characters around her. So I'm genuinely curious, does that mean that you actually get those answers? Like, do you know spoilers for seasons down the road, or are you just sort of acting to what's on the page and waiting to find out like the rest of us?
Well, at first I really got the pilot and I was barely in the pilot. So I just had a lot of questions for them. And then they'd start filling me in. And as we moved through the season, I got more and more information and I'd make other suggestions about where certain things could go too. And so it's been fun to see what they came up with so far this year. And this same back and forth kind of thing. Why don't we tie that back into this thing? Or, add this little element, which will pay off later. Just having that kind of conversation with them is really exciting.
You have worked with some of the greatest directors of all time. You think of Richard Linklater and Martin Scorsese and Tony Scott and David Lynch and Tim Burton. And I was just wondering, can we officially start a campaign to make sure people know that Ben Stiller is one of the best directors working today? Because I feel like people don't appreciate how incredible he is behind the camera.
He really is. And visually, I mean, the way that he moves the camera with our DP, Jessica, we worked together on Escape at Dannemora and now this, and they're both really rich and beautiful and interesting. And Ben has a lot of facility with the camera and he knows how to move it. And besides the drama and the acting part of it, I think he's an incredible director. And I know that he's just going to be doing more and more things. It's funny because at this moment, we're so much in a TV moment, and longer form storytelling. And it's not always easy to pull that off. But Ben is such a perfectionist. He's such a big part of this, every aspect of the show. And I think that's part of why they're so good.
Hard to believe that this year actually marks the 30th anniversary of one of my favorite movies of all time, True Romance. And I'm curious what your favorite memory was on that set. And was there a lesson that you learned shooting True Romance that maybe you still use as an actress today?
Yeah, definitely. I love Tony Scott, our director, so much. And every idea I'd have, I was a very young actress. Every idea I'd have, he'd be like, that's a great idea. Let's do it. Except for one. And then he was like, I don't know about that idea, Bama. He called me Bama. And we shot the scene. And then he was like, you know what? Bama was right. Let's shoot it that way. And then Christian would have ideas and he'd always be like, that's a terrible idea. So he was like the dad figure in a way that told me as a young girl, like, trust your instincts. Go for it. I believe in you. And I think it really empowered me a lot as I moved through my career to listen to my own instincts as an actor.
I'm going to ask one more nerdy question, if you'll indulge me before I get back to Severance. I am a huge horror movie fan. I grew up on the slasher movies of the 80s. And I think Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is a masterpiece. And I know you have won an Oscar and you have won every award imaginable. But maybe Dream Warriors isn't the most prestigious film in your filmography. I'm just sort of curious all these years later where that movie stands for you, because I think it is a horror masterpiece.
My boyfriend just watched it the other night for the first time. Look, I love being in that movie. I love horror movies too. I watch horror movies all the time, and I plan on doing more horror movies in the future. And being part of that franchise is super cool. It's part of what I grew up on also. And it's funny how many fans that genre still has and that in itself. So I'm really grateful to be a part of it. I remember falling asleep in this giant snake of Freddy. We were so tired at night that I actually fell asleep in his mouth.
Uh, I've got to say, that's an incredible image, by the way. Going back to Severance, one of the things I most love about your performance is how flawlessly you kind of sort of alternate, not between characters because they're the same character, but whether it be your position of authority or sort of acting as Adam's neighbor. I'm sort of curious, does the role you're playing on any given day affect what that day is like for you as an actor? Is the day in the office different than your day whenever you're playing Adam's neighbor?
A little bit, because playing the neighbor, a lot of times more we were outside. We were outside the stage, so there was a little more freedom. I felt like she'd created this character as this kind of fumbling neighbor, you know. It's part of a way to insinuate yourself into someone's life, and he probably had mommy issues, and so she's kind of playing with, you know, this maternal feeling that he has. But she was also kind of surprised that she was trying on, how is it to have bonds and friends and joke with each other and chuckle, and wow, is this what it feels like?
I've got to tell you, this is genuinely my favorite show I've seen in years. Like I said, it was my number one favorite show of last year. I cannot wait for season 2, and I've wanted to interview you for years. So seriously, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Chicago.
We love you. Seriously, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Bye, CJ.
Thanks, Jake. Have a good one.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.